Okay, hello, good to have you back again. It's always amazing to share this space with you. Now, what simple tool can you use to sew a torn dress? Yes. Now, when you close that on, there's something you need to use, and it is very simple sewing tools that you can use to sew it. And that's your thread and your needle. Now, a lot of us have frets using our thread and needle, but it's a very important sewing tool that we need to have access to all the time. Now, just imagine running out to work and something just happens. It's just a sound, and then your dress is torn somewhere. You can actually use your thread and needle to do it fast, and so it doesn't obstruct your move to wherever you're going to, or even delays you. So now that brings us to our topic for today, which is simple sewing tools and equipment. So we're going to be introducing ourselves to what simple sewing tools and equipment, so you get to familiarize yourself with the simple sewing tools that you need to know and get acquainted with. Now, there are some objectives that you need to know. There's some things you need to understand as we proceed in the course of this class. Now, the first thing is that at the end of this class, you're going to be able to classify the different group of sewing tools and the equipment. You'll be able to classify the different tools, sewing tools and equipment. And then also you would be able to describe the use of each of the sewing tools and equipment. You'll be able to describe them. So when you see them, you say, this is this one, that one is this one is this one. You will get to know them and call them by their names. And also, you would also outline the care for simple sewing tools and equipment. So when you have them around, you have to know how to take care of them, what is expected of them, the do's and don'ts of all of these sewing tools and equipment. You're going to get to know all about them in the course of this class. And also, you're going to be able to state the guidelines for choosing these sewing tools and what equipment as well. So let's move on to our class for today. Now, there are certain things, okay, pieces of equipment that is required for sewing. Now, if you have to make your clothes. Now, the fashion industry is one industry that is trending, and then everybody should have an idea, even if you're not going to be commercializing it, but you can have an idea of what it is. You can actually do it for yourself, okay, and for your children, your family. So if I say commercialize, that means you're making it to earn money and all of that. You can actually do it for yourself, so you don't spend money going out to do the sewing and all of that. You can get fabrics and then make beautiful, simple designs for yourself. So now there are some materials, there are some equipment, tools that you need to do what? To have to be able to make these clothing that you want to. Now you need to get to familiarize yourself with them. You need to know them, so you'll be able to call them by their names, and then you need to know how to choose them, to actually use and care for them, okay, for each and every piece of these equipment and tools. They're very, very important in the sewing process. And now let's look at some of these tools and equipment for measuring. Tools and equipment for measuring. I'm sure you've been to the tailor before, or a fashion designer, and then you've had an experience of them. You want to make a dress, and then they are telling you to stand, and all of these procedures, taking down measurements and all of that. Now, the first item there you see is the tape measure. Now, this is used for taking measurements of the body. So when you go, you say, I want to make this fine dress. I want to make this dress. I say, okay, fine, beautiful. You need to come. We need to take your measurements. So the tape measure is used to do what? To take your body measurement. And so they are able to know the sleeve length, the arm circumference, the waist, the hips, and all of that. So they put that down. So that rope, you see them use, that's your tape measure. They use in measuring your clothes. So, and your body, sorry, to get your clothes ready for you. That's the tape measure. The next one that's used for tool that's used for measuring is your ruler, okay? Now this clothing and textile people to use the ruler, okay? Now it is used for marking the width of hems and facings, okay? Now, you know, the other part of your clothes, when you turn it, and when you turn the bad part, you see that other part that is folded a little bit is referred to as your hemming, okay? The hem. Now, the ruler is used to do what? To measure the markings or the width for that hem. So you use a ruler to do that. Now the next one you have here is hem marker. Hem marker. Like I said, the hem. So you have to mark. It is used for marking the hems of finished garments. After the garments are prepared, then I use the hem marker to do what? To actually mark these portions and parts of the finished garments. Now, how do you take care of your tape measure? Okay, the tape measure that you see, it's the pride of every tailor, fashion designer. That's their signature. They just put it on their neck and then they go with it. Now, how do you take care of this tape measure? Avoid cutting your tape with scissors, in the process of you taking or cutting fabric, because you have to put them on to measure the fabric as you have taken it to from the person you want to make the clothes for. Okay, I have taken my measurements. Now I want to make my clothing and I have my fabric. I'll have to take my tape measure to be measuring so I can get accurate measurements from what I have collected from my body measurement. So in the process of cutting, you have to be very careful so you don't cut your tape measure so it doesn't get bad. It's very, very fragile, so it doesn't get free. Now another one is that roll up the tape when it's not in use and store in in your sewing box or bag. Now if you're not using it, don't just keep it littered. You have to put it in your sewing box or bag. Keep it neatly, fold it up, wrap it up and put it there. And also you can also wash your plastic tape measure, okay, in soapy water. This plastic one is common around. You see that most of the time it changes color because of the constant use of them. So you can actually wash it in the soapy water and dry it up, and then when it's dry you can now put it and keep it safe for the next use. That's how you care for the tape measure. Let's move on. Now let's look at the tools and equipment for marking and tracing. I'm sure you already know some of the tools used for measuring. Now let's look at the tools and equipment used for marking and tracing when making garments. Now we have the tracing wheel. Now this is used with carbon paper or tracing paper in transferring markings from patterns on fabrics. Now after you have made your patterns, you can now transfer using the tracing wheel to do that. Okay, now if you've had your patterns, now this is mostly spreads with these designers. Okay, now they now do that to do us transfer designs. They've made designs from carbon paper and they want to transfer the markings to the fabric, so they can now transfer it using the tracing wheel to achieve that. Now the other one we have is tracing paper. Tracing paper. Now this paper comes in many colors. It is used for transferring pattern markings onto fabrics. Now clothing and textiles is one amazing field. It tends makes you to be more creative. So tracing paper helps you to do what? To transfer patterns. You can draw them and transfer them to the fabrics you want to make, and then follow through, and then it will come out just as you have designed it on what it should be. That's what the tracing paper does for you. And another one you see in a tailor's shop is the tailor's chalk. Now it comes with different color. It comes in different colors. Now it is used for marking marks on patterns and fabrics. Now they get your fabric, and then with what they have measured, they are using the chalk, so it helps them to cut easily when they are cutting. So they just cut, and that the tailor's chalk helps them to achieve that. So when they've taken the pattern, they just take the chalk and then they draw over. It helps them stay accurate as well. So the tailor's chalk is one sewing tools that is used as well. Now let's look at the tools and equipments for cutting. Tools and equipment for cutting. Now the first one here we have is scissors and shears. Scissors and shears. Now scissors is just your regular scissors. You just cut them and then you use it to cut. But your shears comes with a little bit design, just as you see in the picture there. So you can actually use that one for pattern designing. Your shears, you can use them for pattern designing because it comes with different designs. So as you cut, you see this design from the shears. Now there are different types of scissors and shears. Now they are used for cutting paper, fabric, and thread in the process of sewing. So this is one simple sewing tools and equipment you find in a tailor's shop, or you should have if you want to be doing some little sewing yourself. Scissors and shears is one of that you can have. Is a cutting tool in the making of garments. Now, how do you care for your scissors and your shears? Now, it's very important. Now, do not use your dressmaker's scissors for cutting paper or cardboard. Do not use your dressmaker's scissors for cutting paper and cardboard, okay? Now, you know, in the process of pattern designing and all of that, you have to cut. Some people use the cardboard paper, the brown paper to first of all cut on patterns and designs before they proceed to the fabric. Now, if you're going to be doing that, you need to have a separate scissors, okay, to do that. Don't use the scissors you're going to be using for your fabric to do the same for your cardboards and papers. Now, also the second one here is to reserve small pair of scissors for cutting papers. Just like I said earlier, you need to reserve a smaller scissors that is not the scissors you've been using to cut your fabrics, to cut your papers. And if you do that, you're going to easily get your scissors to get blunt very fast, and then you will have to need a new one, and you have to go and sharpen it. So why do you have to go through the stress of doing that when you can just avoid it? So it is very important that you can use another scissors to do the cutting of your papers and your cardboard. Now, another one is that protect the scissors from rust. You need to protect it from rust. Now, if the scissors begin to get rusted, it's not going to work effectively for you. So you have to make sure you do not let it come in contact with water or liquids whatsoever, so it doesn't start to get rusted. That's one way you can care for your scissors and shears. Now, there's something we call the stitch ripper, okay? Now, this is used for ripping or picking unwanted stitches from our clothing, okay? Now, you can use it to, is a stitch ripper, you know, to rip, to take something away from it. That from the garment, you can actually use it to take away these things that are not wanted in your fabric. And also, it's also used for opening buttonholes. You know, after you've made a dress or you made your clothing and you're going to be having buttonholes, after you've made that, it's closed. So you have to open it. So rather than using razor blade, you can use the stitch ripper to open your buttonhole so it doesn't go beyond where you want it. But sometimes when you use your razor blade, it goes beyond where you want it to go. So it just goes beyond that part where you have kept to do what? For the buttonhole. So the stitch ripper is very effective in cutting buttonholes open. Now let's look at equipment for stitching. Equipment for stitching. You need to stitch some things. Now you have to get familiar with some of these equipments. Now we have the dressmaker's pin. The dressmaker's pin. Now this looks like needles, but they don't have they have heads, not eyes. Now, when you talk about eye, the eye in a needle is that part where you put your thread, okay, that you can thread. Now, these ones don't have eye, but they have heads. Now, what can I think I can say, we call it our office pin, you know, we call it office pin. So that one is your dressmaker's pin. You know, they use it to just, they can use it to hold some of these spaces or patterns where they need to make clothes on. They use it a lot. So every tailor or a dressmaker has this. So it's referred to as what? A dressmaker pin. Now the next one we have is pin cushion and emery bag. Now the pin cushion is used for holding pins, okay, and then needles. The emery bag is this bag that contains some where you can put your pins and all of that in them. You can store these items or pins or needles inside. Now the pin cushion is usually on. You can be placed on top of your table and all of that, where you can just, you know, you've seen it. If you visit the tailor or a dressmaker's shop often, you will see it. You know, they just put it there. Most of them use what's this thing called again? You know, I'm trying to remember. You know this thing they use to magnet. Okay, yes, I remember magnets. Some of them use magnets to just put their razor blades and all of that. So, but pin cushion is advised to just stick them there so they don't move off. So that's what is used for stitching. Now needles, these are things you find, like I said earlier, okay. Now it is one tool that you can use to do what, to sew, simple sewing tools that you can use. It's a must need for everybody. Yes, you should have it. You should have your thread and needle at home. So needles are available in different sizes and types. Now we're going to be looking at some of the needles that are available that we have around. Maybe you never knew they had different types of needles. You're going to be getting to know that now. Now we have different types of needles. We have sharps. Now these are needles of average length with small eyes. They're most commonly used for hand sewing. When you have to do your hand sewing, you use that one, okay. Now we have another type of needle that is called betweens, okay. It's a short needle with a small eye as well. That one that is small down. If you've seen a sewing machine, you're going to be looking at that anyway. But if you've seen a sewing machine, it is used there. It's called betweens. Then we have the crowels or embroidery. Okay, now these needles have big eyes. They're used to do what? Used to thread. Now easy to thread because they are big. Now this is what most of us as ladies, they used to make our hair and all of that. So they are called crowels or embroidery because it is used to do what? To do most embroidery patterns. Okay, you don't have to fight like the sharps, you know, to try to fix the thread, and you have to struggle and all of that. So the crowels or embroidery have bigger eyes, large eyes, that is easy to thread. You just put your thread and then you don't have to struggle that much. Then the next one we have is machine needle. Okay, now it is used with the sewing machine. It is used with the sewing machine. That one cannot be used with the hands and all of that. It is strictly for the sewing machine. Now these are the types of needles we have. Now, how do you care for your needles and your dressmaker's pin? How do you care for them? Now, in order to prevent your needles and pins from rusting, you should put them in a small container, okay, containing white powder. You can get a small container where you can put your needles and your pins so they don't get rusted. Now, if you keep them loose like that, they get rusted. Now, when I was younger, when I visit a tailor and I see that white thing inside, I was like, why are they putting powder? Until they explained why they did that, because they didn't want the needles and pins to do what? To get rusted. So you can actually do that at home. If you have more of your pins and needles, you can actually put them in a container and then sprinkle powder, put powder in it. It won't get rusted. Another one is that do not throw needles and pins about to prevent accident. That is why you have your pin cushion, okay, or the magnet like the tailors have. You can actually put it there so you don't do what? Cause accident. You know, these are sharp objects. If you keep them carelessly, you can actually fall over it. Someone touches them and then you can get injured and it can cause serious accident. So it's very, very important that you put them and keep them safe. Okay, don't just throw them anywhere. Sometimes in the course of making them, they get broken. In the course of making a dress, they get broken. So you can actually put them, as they get broken, just charge them properly so they don't get to be in harm's way for any other person. Now, another one is that you can use pin cushion for holding pins and needles, just like I said, to prevent accidents. That is why these materials are made. Okay, you put them there so one doesn't get into harm's way to get him or herself harmed by needles and pins. And also, whenever you're sewing, always make sure you use your pin cushion to hold your pins and needles. Now, you can also use your emery bag to sharpen your clean needles and pins. Now, that emery bag is used to sharpen pins. You know, it doesn't make them get blunt. So you can always use your emery bag to put them there so it doesn't get damped. So it can always be sharpened all the time for your next use. Now, there's this other item too that is used, tool and equipment, simple sewing tools and equipment that is used for effective sewing. It is called the thimble. Now, this is a small cap-like metal or a plastic one on the finger to protect it from the piercing of your needle, okay, when sewing. Now, people wear this. Now, I've just seen few persons. It's not so rampant or common. I think it's mostly common for people that are just learning to make clothing, and then you have to wear your thimble so you do not pierce yourself in the course of sewing. You know, sewing is one or making a dress is something that exposes you to needle pins and all of that. because of the sharp objects that are involved. So when you wear a thimble, it helps to protect your finger from those pierces. I've seen where someone was trying to fix, the needle for the machine, and then somehow she just pierced her hand. It was a serious injury. So if she had had her thimble on, it wouldn't have caused her that much pain, because it would have been a shield for her. So it's very important to use your thimble when you're making a dress. Okay, now this is the sewing machine. It is one tool that is used, or equipment that is used in making dress, okay, and it's used for stitching, okay, to make dress, used for stitching and all of that. The sewing machine, it comes in different types, colors, okay. The sewing machine, okay, I think we're just introducing you to sewing tools and all of that. So the sewing machine itself, where you get to find the accessories and all of that, the uses and all of that, it's a different topic all the same. So now we're just introducing some of the tools. So sewing machine is one tool and equipment that is used for what? Sewing your dresses, okay. It is used for stitching. It's a major sewing equipment when it comes to what? Making of your dress. Now another tool here is your sewing thread. Sewing thread. Now it's a sewing aid. It comes in different colors. It is used for stitching. It comes in different colors, okay, made from nylon, polyester, and all of that. They come in different colors. So now when you're making the dress, you see the tailor making the dress, they tend to use the colors that are suitable for what? The dress that they are making. You cannot be making a white dress and then you're using an odd color. You should be using something that suits the color, except you're trying to create some other design. So sewing thread are used to match fabrics, okay, when they are being used, okay. That's your sewing thread. They come in different colors. Now we also have the sewing bag or box. Okay, now all of these places where you put all of these, your sewing tools and all of that, it can be referred to at the same time the sewing kit. Okay, now your sewing kit. Now this box contains all the equipment, your tools, such as your rulers, your threads, your chucks, and you put them in that box and keep them neatly for the next use, rather than letting them litter. So every dressmaker should have a sewing bag or a box where you can actually put and pack all your simple sewing tools, okay, so it can aid your next move for making a dress. Okay, now we're going to look at guidelines for choosing sewing tools and equipment. Now, if you need to pick materials that you want to use, there are some things you need to put into consideration. There's some things you need to look out for when you have to choose these sewing tools and equipment that we've talked about. Now, the first thing you need to put into consideration is that when you need to choose measuring tools and equipment, you have to look for those ones that have smooth edges to avoid snagging the fabric, okay? When you have to pick that, you have to make sure it is smooth, because if it's not smooth, as you put it, as you're trying to, it will pick the fabric and it will cause it to snag. So you have to make sure they have smooth edges so they don't snag your fabric and get a spot. You don't want that, isn't it? Okay, now the next one is that you need to choose a measuring tape that will not stretch or fray. Okay, when you're getting your measuring tape, I'm sure a lot of you want to go into fashion and all of that. It's a very beautiful thing. Like I said, if you're not commercializing it for yourself, it's very important you learn it. So if you're going to be picking a measuring tape, make sure it does not stretch or fray. Make sure you choose the one that does not stretch or fray. Now, another thing you need to look out for is that you need to choose scissors or shears with good and durable handle, okay? Not the one you're trying to cut and it's pulling off. Yes, there are a whole lot of them, and it's sometimes when we go for cheap items, that's when we find them. But if you want something durable, you have to go for something that's quite good, durable, that can last you long. There's efficient that can last you for a longer period of time. Now you need to choose scissors and shears with good durable handle, because that's the handle you need to hold. And if the handles are not okay, then there's no scissors and shears, okay, because that is what helps you to achieve whatever you need to achieve when you're cutting. Now another one is you need to choose cutting equipment such as scissors, shears that will not rust. Yes. Okay, and there are a whole lot of them that could rust. So when you go for something that is of high quality, it will not rust. So you have to look out for those ones with high quality so they do not rust. Now, another thing is that pins and needles should always have sharp points. That is why their needles, they should always have sharp points. When you're going to get them, you need to look out for them. Some of them are already broken and they're packed, so you need to check them out because it must have sharp ends. If they don't have sharp ends, they cannot have access to your fabric. They won't have access to your fabric. So you're trying to fix them up and it's not moving anywhere. So it must have sharp end for easy access to your fabric. And also you need to choose marking equipment that will not leave permanent mark on the fabric. Now, because you need to mark patterns on your fabric, you need to have marking equipment or tools that does not leave permanent denting on your materials. Okay, you're going to be cleaning that thing when you make them, so it shouldn't be permanent, because after you're done it should be something that can be washed off and it's okay. So you need to choose equipment and tools that do not leave permanent mark on the fabric, because the customer will not find it funny. Okay, another one finally is always choose the right equipment for the job. Always choose the right equipment for the job. For whatever thing you want to do, make sure you're choosing the right equipment. Make sure you're making use of the right equipment. Let's say, for instance, you want to make you want to open up a buttonhole, like I gave an instance earlier. Rather than using your razor blade that could actually exceed where you have kept to be opened, you can use your seam ripper or your stitch ripper to do what? To get it off. Easy, good and dusted. That is the right equipment for that job. That thing was made for it. Okay, so it is good as that. Okay, now let's move on to ExamGuide and attempt some questions from ExamGuide app. Okay, let's look at this question. The following are benefits of repairing an old garment, except that it: A, we have keeps a wardrobe tidy. B, makes it last longer. C, makes it look more beautiful. D, saves money. E, wastes time and energy. Okay, now we asked you some of the tools that can help you make your dress. Now, the benefits of repairing an old garment. These are the benefits, except one. Now, keeps the wardrobe tidy. When you repair an old garment, okay, it keeps your wardrobe tidy rather than keeping it looking, not so good. Another one is that it makes your clothes last longer. So when you repair them, it makes it last longer for you, okay? You can use it for a longer period of time. Another thing is that it makes it look more beautiful. So when you amend it, then you repair it, it makes it look more beautiful for your next use. Also, it saves you money, right? Yeah, so when you repair your old garment, it saves you money, because there's some of these are fabrics or some of these are clothes that we lost so much that, if it's going bad, it's breaking your heart. Like, it breaks your heart when they're going bad. So when you fix them up, it saves you money, because you would have gone to buy the same thing that you already had. So when you fix them up, it's fine. It saves you money. So now, except for one, which is waste time and energy. So E is the answer for this question. The following are benefits of repairing an old garment, except that it wastes time and energy. It does not waste time and energy, okay? It does not. So E is the answer. Okay, let's look at this question. A small instrument used for transferring pattern markings onto fabrics is called what? We talked about it today. So yes, in the course of the class. Now let me see if you know. Okay, a small instrument used for transferring pattern markings onto fabrics is called, we talked about it in the course of this class. Let me see my smart students. Now, A, we have hem maker. B, we have metric stick. C, we have sewing machine. D, we have tape measure. E, we have the tracing wheel. So which of these is the answer? That small instrument that is used for transferring patterns, markings onto our fabrics. Yes. Okay, beautiful, good. Is that tracing wheel? That's the answer. We talked about the tracing wheel, that you can actually use it to transfer pattern markings to your fabrics. So the answer is what? The tracing wheel. Let's look at the next question. Okay, let's look at this question. Thimble is used in A. Cutting thread, B. Holding fabric together, C. Loosening stitches, D. Measuring fabric, E. Protecting the finger. I'm sure you still remember the picture of the thimble, isn't it? Now it's that small, like cap-like thing that you wear on the finger. So why do we wear the thimble? Okay, now the first answer here we say cutting thread. Is the thimble used for cutting thread? Of course no. Is it used for holding fabric together? No. Is it used for loosening stitches? No. Is it used for measuring fabric? No, no, no. So the answer there is for protecting what? The finger. Yes, thimble is used for protecting the finger against what needle, stops needle from piercing into the finger. So it is what? For protecting the finger. Now let's look at the next question. Okay, let's look at this question. Tools used for pattern drafting includes the following except A. We have brown paper, B. We have French cuff, C. We have pencil, D. We have scissors, E. We have the sewing machine. So which of these tools are used for? Okay, all of these tools are used for sewing and drafting pattern except one. Now which of these is not that one? Okay, is it brown paper? Of course, brown paper is a tool for drafting, pattern drafting. French curve is a tool for pattern drafting. Pencil is a tool for pattern drafting because you have to draw. Then D, scissors, is a tool for pattern drafting. E, sewing machine is not a tool for pattern drafting. A sewing machine is used for what? Stitching, okay? So it's not a tool for pattern drafting. So the answer here is the sewing machine. Every other one is a tool for what? Tool for pattern drafting, except the sewing machine. Okay, a small device used for holding pins and needles is A. We have the hem maker, B. We have pin cushion, C. We have the sewing box, D. We have stitch ripper, E. We have the tailor's hem. Now, what's that small device that we use for holding our pins and needles? I'm sure you still remember. Yes. It's a pin cushion, okay? You use your pin cushion to do what? To hold your pins and needles. So the answer here is B. So B is the correct answer. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. Now the app scores and gives a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice tests. You can learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like the study mode, mock mode, and practice mode. It also has other features that make learning fun. It is a must-have for every serious student. I know you're that serious student. Now you can download the app from www.examguide.com. If you don't have it yet, please do. I'll see you in our next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and share the videos to your friends, your family. I'm sure they'll benefit from it as well. Bye for now.